How y'all doing? Cool, cool.
Yes, yes. So, Sycamore, how are you?
I feel good. Feeling good. I'm glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to have you. So, I wanted to sit down and talk to you. This portion, it's okay. I know y'all drinking, y'all having a good time. That's awesome. But I do want y'all to get some of this knowledge over here as well. So, those of you that are joining us, tuned in here, we do weekend workshops every month. I don't know if you knew that. Did you know that?
I learned that yesterday. I learned all about this. It's real dope.
So yes, so we really are happy to have you. We often talk to a lot of industry vets, and you, my man, you do a number of things within the industry, but we can say that your title has become A&R.
Yeah, right now my official title is Vice President of A&R and Creative Director at Epic Records.
Epic Records.
And then I also work with Executive Producer for YG.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with a girl named Kamaya from the Bay Area.
Oh, you don't got to tell me about Kamaya. I love Kamaya. She's about to be everywhere.
I think she's going to be huge, you know?
She's going to be huge. It's like she gives you, I can't even really describe her, but she's awesome. And all of my friends know that I like promote Kamaya, like she my friend. I don't even know her. But so yeah, you work with a lot of people and you're doing a lot of great things. And we want to kind of go back to the beginning for you. How it all started. How did you even? Well, I know it started out with you hustling mixtapes or in New York, right? You're from New York.
Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn.
Shout out to Brooklyn.
Like Crown Heights, Huddersfield, like Shara. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was born in Trinidad. I went to Brooklyn when I was like 5.
Oh wow.
And I started when I was 16 years old selling mixtapes, and I would sell mixtapes all across the city, like instrumental.
Who were on these mixtapes?
Well, a lot of them were either mixes
Uh-huh.
or they was like instrumentals.
Okay.
The instrumentals and new artists was my focus.
Nice.
So like I would put on these new, like it was a time of like 50 Cent and everybody was freestyling over beats.
Yes.
So I started off small. I started like anybody in this room. You know, I started off with like 20 CDs and I would sell them downtown Brooklyn. And I moved out. I moved to Canal Street. I sold 20 more. And I started with like 40 CDs, and then one day somebody called me for an order of 100 CDs.
Oh, wow.
And my life changed at that point. And then I just kept flipping, man. And I was just like, I flipped until about 2 years. And I was 16 years old when I started. And then when I was 17, I started like a record store in my neighborhood of Crown Heights.
Really?
Yeah.
You started your own record store at 17?
It didn't start off as a whole record store. I started off like a little booth, right? So
Nice.
There was a local barbershop in my neighborhood. It's like, if you're familiar with Brooklyn, it's like on like, I think like President and Franklin, right? And they had like a little barbershop in there. So at 17, I walked in there. I was like, yo, I wanna sell my CDs in here. And I got a company, incorporated and everything. Somebody from the church gave me some money.
Really?
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know what I mean? I want to get in there. They're like, yo, get out of here, you know? Like, but I came back again. They're like, how much would it be to rent a booth in here? And they were like $600 a month. So I came back a third time with a check for $1,800. I had the first, second, and last.
Yes.
And he let me stay in there, right?
I love it.
I got a partner from school. We set up shop. I didn't know I was paying the whole rent for the $600 though.
They played you?
Nah, I mean it's a game though. You know,
It is.
So eventually what happened was the barber who was cutting in there stopped coming in because I was paying his rent. So I just had the whole store, and I started calling out all the DJs on the back of the CDs to go buy the CDs. So I don't believe in giving something for nothing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So even at 17 years old, I was still in high school, but I was still trying to motivate. So I called all these people, and some people would come down. That's how I first started getting my industry connections through there. And then I met this DJ named Action Pack, and he made me a deal. He was like, every time you put out a CD, I'll burn up hundreds of your CDs, like 600 CDs of yours, and you can distribute them all across New York.
What?
And I took it, and I'll get about $250 a CD. So every time I put out a CD, it'd be like $1,500 in my pocket. Then I did 2 CDs, and it went from 600 to 1,200, 1,200 to 2,000, and by the time I was 18, 19, I was booming.
Wow. Wow. You see what a little hustle can do?
Yeah, so I always relate to this, because I always relate to all the showcases and everything, because I was one of these people who went to the showcases every single time. I either like handing out my mixtapes, new artists this would be my safe zone.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I love the hustle.
Absolutely, and I love the hustle too, and I respect that. So you couldn't have imagined or envisioned yourself in this position as a music exec, as someone who is well known in the industry for doing what you do and breaking careers the way you have.
You know,
or did you envision that? I shouldn't assume.
Nah, it's kind of like you gotta as a student. So every time I would go on, I would learn more. Like I would always pick up mentors, you know.
And I was gonna ask you that. Is there anybody in your career that you can note for being like, kind of like a force of change in your success as a executive?
There's a guy named Kiambo Hip Hop Joshua. He
Okay.
A&R'd like a lot of Jay-Z albums. He found Joshua. Yep. You know, he found Kanye West, and he really took me under my wing, and he like really gave me like a shot.
How did you meet him?
I found this artist. I was A&R'ing for. I was pretty much interning, but they call it A&R for Just Blaze, and
Nice.
I found him an artist, and the artist ended up signing the hip hop's company, and from there, hip hop put me under his wing, and then a lot of times people come up to me like, I need a mentorship. I want mentorship, but I didn't really ask him to be my mentor. I just kind of like adopted him. I just showed up one day, and I showed up every day. I would always have something to bring to the table. I would tell him about new books, things I was researching. I would just try to keep him young and cool.
So y'all were like helping each other.
Yeah, like
Essentially.
my thing in my mentorship relationships, I would try to always help them out by bringing them books, bringing them ideas. Like even the young people who work with me now, I always tell them I should never know where the parties are, where the music are, where the sneakers are. You guys should be able to tell me stuff.
Exactly.
So the mentorship and the menteeship goes both
It's
ways.
a mutual relationship.
Because eventually, you know, you guys are gonna come together, and you know, you won't be like a mentee no more. You'll be friends.
Absolutely, I love that, and I think also that kind of. It kind of brings me to my next question, because you not only are an A&R, but you also, you said under the title at Epic is creative directing as well, correct?
Yeah, like so I'll tell you how I kind of got there. You know, from after I did after I was doing the mixtapes, I started getting people on, and then I got my first opportunity with Atlantic Records when I was 20 years old.
Yes.
to become an A&R. And you know, I started after hustling in the street. I did like this internship / A&R gig with no money with Just Blaze. I found somebody. I got somebody else to deal.
You said with no money, it was basically an internship, correct? Unpaid.
Well, I mean, it was an internship, but I don't believe in just random internships. Like I feel like you have to negotiate your success up front. So anytime that you deal with somebody and somebody says, I want you to work for free, just be like, cool, but put a timeline on it and put some goals on it. You know what I mean? So my thing was, look, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to tell everybody I'm an A&R for your company, and then when we get distribution, you're going to pay me, you know? And that was the deal. And the second, like, he didn't get distribution, and he didn't pay me, I was out. You know what I mean? Because you got to know your worth. You know what I mean? Even now, your time, and there's something called sweat equity. So when sweat equity is like the amount of time you put into a new business, even if you're not getting paid, you should have some kind of equity or something in it.
Right.
So even at 19 years old, I used to read a lot, so I figured that out. So when he didn't pay me, I still made relationships. I met my mentor, and then he got me my first job with Atlantic Records when I was 21.
Nice.
And I became director of A&R there.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you've acquired much success, but you've also been doing it for a while. I want to ask you, what are some of your major keys to success in A&R? No DJ Khaled, but we want to know your keys to success.
A lot of people think A&R is just about discovery and identifying, like, oh, can you just listen to my demo? But a lot of A&R is a process. It's a craft. You know, like I think identifying talent is probably like 20% of the job. The other percent of the job is also helping find songs, helping developing songwriters, managing producers, engineers, the concept of an album, you know? Like the 3 artists I work with real heavy right now is Kamaya, YG, and Travis Scott. And I work with all 3 of them in different capacities, right?
And what are those capacities?
Like Travis is a really super talented. He's super talented, and he just is all over the place. So he needs somebody to kind of like bring in his ideas, focus him up a little bit, and give him the tools he needs to be successful.
that out, yeah.
Whether it be a producer,
Right.
whether he needs a new artist is coming out, new studio situation. Like he recruited me personally to go work at the label. And he was like, you know, Sick, if I had a place like yours, I would do. If I had a house, I'll put all these people in the house. So when he was working for 2 years at Epic, he would just be in studio sessions. He'd just be like chilling, leaned out, just like no focus.
Right.
So what I did was gave him a structure and a focus. I'm almost like a coach.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So we put him in the house. We put all these producers in the house: Metro Boomin, Sunny Digital, a lot of Atlanta producers. First from FKI, Wonder Girl from Toronto, Alan Ritter from New York. Put them all in the house and had them work with Travis, and that's how we made like Rodeo, you know? And the second time around, we started building the chemistry,
Right.
and I'm just helping him put it together. Same thing with YG. He was doing more West Coast music,
Right.
and we needed to figure out a way to break him. That's the reason I'm out here now, because we work in Atlanta. Anytime YG, you would think YG does all his records like in Bompton or something, but no, we come right out here to record because it's like a working city.
Nice.
It's a city with a lot of producers, a lot of writers, and people are actively out here to work. So we come out here, record, get our real mind focus. I put him onto a bunch of albums that he should be listening to. We came up with a concept for his album, My Crazy Life, and then that's what we delivered it right here.
One of my favorites.
So it's a lot of A&R is more than just like identifying somebody new. It's about developing an artist and the talent in all different kind of ways.
So you've done a lot, and with this it's clear. But so we have creative directing. We have being a manager not a manager, from being an A&R. But you also managed Nicki early on in her career. Is that correct?
Yeah, like after I did the A&R thing and it wasn't working my way at first, I switched gears again. I was like, oh, this is not for me. Like the first company that's with Atlantic Records, because I was so young, 21, 22. I don't know if anybody's really young in corporate America. There's a lot you got to learn politically and culturally when you're in corporate that has nothing to do with the actual job. Right. You might be really great at your job, but then your boss might not like you, or you don't understand the rhythm of your company. Yep. You don't understand the clicks and stuff like that.
They over here shouting, you preaching to them.
Yeah,
I hear it.
It's hard to really understand that when you first come in, especially when you're black and from the hood. Like you don't understand what's going on. If your parents didn't get you a job there, you don't understand what's going on politically. Mm-hmm. So like I went and I left there when I was 23. I went and started my own company. Oh, wow. And Nicki was like my first managerial client.
And you kind of said before that you weren't quite sure exactly if you were ready to manage at the time when you first started managing her. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't have the focus. I was doing too much. You know what I'm saying? Like I was trying to like do consulting, and I was trying to like do shows, and I was trying to manage an artist. And you know, when you manage an artist, and if all you managers out there and artists, like you really have somebody's career and their lives in their hands. You got their dream in your hands, so you can't be playing around and doing too much. You got to really be in it with that artist,
right,
all the way. And I don't think I was in it with her all the way like that, because she was like up at 7 o'clock in the morning, focused, ready to go.
She was ready to work.
Yeah, and I was like kind of like I had a lot going on. Right. I had too many artists, too many things going on. If you feel like somebody's really gonna be you can really do something with somebody, you need to really double down on that person, that group, that artist, that label, and give it your all. Because a lot of times, you know, you think we want to do too much. We want to do these shows. We want to do these artists. I want to go promote. I want to have my job. But at some point, you just need one thing to pop to make everything else work. Because even like 5 things aren't going to pop at the same time, because it's just going to have like 5 things that are kind of substandard versus focus on one thing that you could show people like, this is my body of work. Because I know most of the people in this room, or all the people in this room, you're creatives. You know, and as a creative, all you have to show is your project and the last project you worked on. So if you're a producer, you're a manager, you're a label owner, you're an artist, people are going to say, well, what have you done last, right, as a creative? And you have to show them a body of work. So if every time you see somebody, you're like, well, what's up with your mixtape? What's up with your album? And you don't have nothing, you lose credibility. People need to see, like, that's your resume in this world. Like, exactly. And it's your taste level, too. It's like, okay, cool. How much work do you put into this? Like, what's your, like, one of the things that intrigued me about this showcase, they said, like, when Oz was pitching it to me, he was saying that people had to have certain quality to
yeah, you got to have your record, mixed, mastered, available for distribution. We want you to have a certain standard for yourself before you go out here trying to work.
Yeah, and I respect that about this show. It's like you have to have a certain level of professionalism. Just because you're an artist doesn't mean you're not a professional. That you don't have to have a craft and you have to go to work every day, really writing songs, promoting, and understanding that. So all the artists that I work with now, they don't just sit back and let people handle their business. They're very hands-on. Right. But YG does 2 conference calls every single week with his whole team, laying out every aspect from shows to merchandise to music. Same thing with Travis. He's very active in every aspect, from all the clothes that you see with him wearing, the looks. Nothing is by accident, and he's always been like that ever since he was a kid 5 years ago in the office with no hair, with a fade. He always had a vision, and he always knew that what he needed to get to the next step. So you got to think of yourself like it's small businesses as coming up, you know? Absolutely.
And aside from, I kind of want to focus on just the number of things that you do. You recently had your first photo exhibit in Miami for Art Basel, correct?
Yeah, that was a trip.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram. It's Sickamore on Instagram, but your photos are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I know I like them. So when did you dive into doing photography? Are you doing this full time? What are your plans with that?
Travis actually got me into photography. When we was in the house, I told him I wanted to get into photos, and he's like, dog, I took photos. You should just do black and white photos, and you should only shoot film. So I came up with a plan. The first year, I'm only going to shoot film, and I don't care if I suck. I'm just gonna shoot photos all day, every day. And I shot like 1,000 shots that year just on film. And the second year, this last year, I changed my medium to like digital, and like the camera I have now. And I've been shooting. I've been like researching different books and reading all type of photography history to develop my style. And I figured out like this black and white style that I'm in right now. As any artist knows, like your style's always going to change depending on your last experience. And like, you know, it could be whether you had a lover, you read something, you watched a movie.
By.
So right now I'm like in this like black and white phase with a heavy flash, and that's like what I'm into. So you know, if people really started to pick up on my photos, to the point where people started knowing me as a photographer first.
Right.
So my friend Jules from Miami, she put on a show, and she allowed me to show my work over there,
Dope.
which I thought was great. But then when I went there, I showed 12 pieces and sold 11 of them.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, okay, cool, it's a real thing.
This is a thing.
Yeah, because after you know, it's a hobby till you get paid. You know what I mean? After the first time somebody buys your album, you're a professional.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you gotta really start taking it serious at that point.
So you've mentioned a lot of different people that you've worked with over the years. They've given you some opportunities. You mentioned hip hop there. You said Jules' name just a few seconds ago. We know that relationships are key in this industry. I think that that's why we're stressing networking here tonight. What if excuse me, I'm sorry, there's a bug in the air. That was a little distracting. I'm sorry. Freaked out. What relationships have you created or have you built over the years, aside from, you talked about hip hop and how he actually introduced you to Atlantic Records, but what other relationships have you formed over the years that have really excelled you in your career?
I think a lot of times when people network, I think they network wrong sometimes. People always try to network up, and they don't really try to network like laterally and below. Because I think that a lot of my relationships that happened didn't just happen with people who were above me, like in the work-wise.
Right.
It happened with people who were my peers. Like, you know what I mean? Like the people like you look around here with right now, everyone's gonna like, unless you fall off and you quit, everyone's gonna have a certain level of success in music and entertainment and whatever you're focused on. The only reason you're not gonna catch it if you just give up.
Absolutely.
So the people around you now, your peers, are really important. And then the people who come under you, the next generation, cultivating them is important because you never know when they'll blow up.
Exactly.
Like with Travis, he came up to me, and I didn't sign him right away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't do it. So we always kept the relationship. And then as I worked with Def Jam for 2 years, he personally recruited me as he started bigger to come work for another company. But that was a relationship I always kept cool. Anytime he called me for advice, I'd give him advice. If he needed me to go listen to a song, I listened to a song. So when he had an opportunity to put me in position after he started getting bigger, he did. And now he's on top of the world.
That's love.
But that's not the reason he did it. He did it because you remember when he didn't have anything,
Exactly.
that I showed him love.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of the networking has to happen multiple ways. You can't just think about the big people that you have to talk to. You have to think about the people who are your peers and people who are reaching out to you. Because if you're ignoring people who's reaching out to you, and then people are ignoring you who's reaching out to them, it's like a karma.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Right.
an energy that is not being reciprocated, and you have to really focus on that. That's why I try to like speak as much as possible. I try to keep as much youth around me as possible, just because you just never know when that person's gonna take you to the next level.
Absolutely. And speaking of also Travis Scott actually reaching out to you in terms of getting you to that next step with Epic and getting you this new position, which is awesome. Well, what could you say, do you feel like you're getting a little bit more creative freedom or input when it comes to working with artists? Because I think you've acquired this like trust in the industry and probably with the labels that you've worked with to work with these artists on different levels. Are they giving you that freedom and that range to work with artists like YG and Travis Scott?
Well, it's not about the success. Doesn't get you trust. The trust is let me explain it.
Yeah,
The trust comes with commitment. Like, let's say you're an artist, right, on any level, and you have an idea for a project or an idea of your career. You're gonna be like, you know what? I want to be a singer, but I want to be focused on the new level wave of Atlanta. I want to be the new Atlanta singer, so I need to focus on what that new sound sounds like. I want like that Metro sound slowed down with 90s R&B samples, and I want to look like this on a style. You're gonna tell me exactly what you want, and then I'm gonna lock in with that idea with you, right? And after we lock in that idea, I become almost like the president of that idea, your biggest fan of that idea, the chairman of that idea, and I just help you do that idea. So it's that connection that you build. Everything else for an artist isn't really as important as somebody helping them get their dream out. So that's kind of like what I do with my artists. I have the relationship with them because I'm really focused on getting their idea out, and if I help them achieve their dreams,
Yeah.
then my dreams will come true. And
Absolutely.
everywhere else.
On the flip side of that, though, in terms of like the label itself, do you feel like they're giving you kind of that freedom to explore the ideas? Because I'm sure that Travis Scott and YG, even Kamaya, have ideas that may seem a little bizarre, and you're helping them mold that and getting it there. But the label themselves are entrusting you with the responsibility to push their artists,
Well,
and essentially you're artists.
Well, as an A&R, you got two responsibilities. I got a responsibility to the artist creatively and make sure your shit is dope and comes out and people hear it. And to the label, I have a responsibility to make sure it comes in under budget, on time, and gets it out and successful.
Gotcha.
So the trust from the label started happening after it had success on the charts.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first major song that I was a part of that gave me some kind of creative freedom was My Nigga from YG. So when I first got with YG, the problem with him was that he was local. He was an LA artist, and he would never break out the West Coast.
Right.
So that was how do you break that solution? What do you do there? Because him and Mustard was making such a great sound, but it wouldn't get past like Arizona. So what we did, Fiji, feature, but what kind of feature? And which demographic is that? Bingo. We came down to Atlanta and recorded, right? And then what we did was New York was too hard to crack, so we started recording in Atlanta. And then one day, Rich Homie Quan, he had to hide a song in Atlanta some type of way, and him, Mustard, and everything, they came in the studio and they made the My Nigga record, and Jeezy jumped in it. Jeezy put it out on his mixtape and started circling it around the city. Right. So that record actually broke in Atlanta before it broke in the West Coast, and that's what made him a national artist. So after you have the art, you have the music, then you have to have the strategy behind it of how to, and pulling a real team behind it. That was like a dream team that really helped it. So to answer your question, after that record broke and started breaking, then they give you more creative freedom. But after they see you have some kind of success.
Right, exactly.
So after a few of those in a row started happening, My Crazy Life happened. I started working with Jeremiah. That started going on, and Travis. Now people kind of leave me alone. They're like, all right, whatever.
We trust them.
They trust me. I mean, but I'm still like a black man, so like they're gonna trust me until like
a certain extent.
Until it stops working.
Right. Absolutely. And speaking of until, I know it's not going to stop working because you're amazing at what you do, but we want to know what's next for you. What do you have in terms of your goals and how you're going to attain them? What is next for you if it's not even in the A&R space?
My immediate goals I'm focused on is still like getting my artists to the next level. YG and Travis are working on their third albums. And the third album is supposed to be a big album. That's supposed to be the album that breaks you to the moon. Like Absolutely. Michael Jackson's big album was his third album. His first two albums were kind of like flops.
Yeah.
So like my goal is to make sure they get through there. I want to make sure Kamaya is doing really well. I want to continue.
Yeah, please do. Tell her I'm her biggest fan. I'm down here in Atlanta, like really pushing it for the culture. Okay.
I think she's a great example for black women everywhere.
Absolutely.
She has a very unique style. She's from the coast. She's holding out Oakland.
Yeah.
And so that's my goals with them. And for me personally, it's just to keep getting better at my craft. I look at myself like any professional. Like a plumber. I'm saying, like an electrician. Like I go in there and I have a job to do. When I get to the studio, I have to do something. I have to make sure that the beats are there. Right. I have to make sure that the vision's there, the songs are there, the focus is there, what we're working on. Like I had to leave the studio. I got 2 sessions going on right now to come do this, but I let them know what I'm doing. Right. I'm almost like on lunch break. And I'm going right back over there.
And we appreciate you for taking that time out. My last question for you, and I'm going to let you go because I know you're a busy man. What can we do here that those that may be interested in what you do? What are some advice, some leaving words that you can give them in terms of being successful in this industry?
I think 2 things. One is research and one is routine. Research in the sense that you have to know what you're talking about. Like you could be the best networker, but if you get in somebody's face and then you don't know what you're talking about, you just wasted everybody's time. You wasted your own time and their time. So know who you're meeting with, why you're meeting with them, what you want to accomplish, what goals you want to accomplish, when you're meeting with somebody. So when you network, make sure you have a point to your networking. You have something that you could bring to the table and something that's what that person is. I mean, a lot of times people are like, yo, I want to meet with you. I want to do that. I'm like, well, do you know what I do? Like, not really. You know what I mean? So they don't know who I work with, anything. So it's a waste of everybody's time.
Absolutely.
I guess the third one, goals. Like, you don't really go nowhere without goals. You know what I mean? Like, people say that, but you have to have very specific goals. Like, the one thing I always do with the artists is we have very specific goals of what success looks like. Do we want to win a Grammy? Do we want to have a platinum record? Do we want to have critical acclaim? Do we want to be on the top 10 list? Do we want to be the hottest record in Magic City? Like, what is success? And until you can define what success is, it's hard to build a path to success, because you need to figure out what your definition of success is. And the last thing is something I figured out in the last couple of years, but it's really helped me dramatically, is routine. Mm-hmm. You know, it's something to say about getting up and doing the same thing every single day.
Your rituals of success.
Yeah, whether it's affirmations, whether you're waking up a certain side of the bed, whether you're meditating, whether you're running, whether you're working out, whether you're writing, you're drinking lemon water, you're eating fruit. Just make sure you have some kind of routine that you can stick to every single day. You know, if you wake up one morning at 7 a.m., like I'm focused, I'm about to go to the gym, and you woke up the next day at 12:30 and just watch TV all day, you're not going to really be successful because you're not building any momentum for yourself.
Absolutely.
So routine is really important in any level, whether you want to be an artist or an athlete or the president of the United States or whatever. Like, you need to have a routine every single day that you can rely on, and your routine becomes your backbone, because the better your routine is, the better you become as a person, because you have to do it. And because one thing what a routine does, guys, is you put yourself first. You know, you're the most important person in this thing. You know what I mean? Like, your family's great, your career is great, your parents are great, but if you break down, everything else kind of falls apart. So make sure that you focus on yourself first and foremost.
Absolutely, and I thank you so much once again. Can we give Sickamore a round of applause for just being here, giving us his time today? I really appreciate it. Where can they, follow you on social media? We're really big about just keeping the network going out the door. If you want them to follow you on social media, where can they follow you?
No, that's cool. My social media is Sickamore, Sickamore. That's like my Instagram, my Twitter. My website is sickamore.co, and on there has my email. I'll just give you my email now, but if you don't want to check the website to get my email, then it probably is not worth it. You know what I'm saying? So it's right there. If you go to sickamore.co, it's my personal email. You just go to Sick right there at the bottom. You see my contact. It goes directly to my phone. And that's my contact. Networking is one of the things, right?
It is.
You network with me. I just never know. Like, you know, in Atlanta, to me, Atlanta is the hub of music for black music. So you just never know. I know somebody in this room is going to be one of the biggest people in the world. I'll tell you a funny story.
Absolutely.
Of one time I was on the set of Who Do You Love with YG song, and I never met Drake in my life, right? And I heard him talking behind me, and he runs up to me and he taps me on my shoulder, and he's like, are you Sickamore? And I'm like, yeah. He said, do you remember when I sent you my mixtape in 2007? Oh, no. Yeah, and I didn't remember, and I stopped doing mixtapes at the time. But it's just like, you just never know. You know what I'm saying? Like, when, what the next person is going to be. Because this is a time thing. Because, you know, it's like, the more you stick with it, the more you learn, the better you get at it, the better you're going to be. I wish I could just tell you that talent would take you everywhere, but it won't. It's like, who is going to hustle and who's going to stay with it. Because some of the most talented people in this room is going to quit. Some of the most talented people in the room going to get not focused. You know what I mean? They're just going to give up. I've worked with artists before that just dead ass gave up. They told me, I don't want to do it anymore. There's one artist I was working with for like 6 years, and he told me one day, like, Sick, I'm gonna quit. I'm not doing it no more. And the next person I worked with, YG, and that was my blessing. But I'm not gonna quit. And then years later, he's like, well, you were supposed to try to push me and make me not quit. I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
You gotta motivate yourself.
Yeah, so just keep going, man. Just remember, the second you quit, that's the second you're gonna remember somebody who's sitting right next to you. You're gonna be like, I was better than him. You ever met those people who, like, I went to high school with so-and-so and they wasn't shit, or like I was playing on the same basketball team with so-and-so and I was better than them, but the only difference between them and you is that they stick with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for those words. Once again, give it a round of applause for Sickamore. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Sonically superior.